Hello and welcome to Arn. This is Paul Bromwell, and today on the Four Horsemen Network and One True Sport, I'm joined by the multi-time Hall of Famer, founder of the Four Horsemen, and currently my tag team partner, my friend. He's the enforcer. He's double A. He's Arn Anderson. Arn, it is so good to be back with you, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm seeing you got some new gear there, looking good.
I do. It's another one of your brand new shirts that's available onetruesport.com. Arn, I can see too. You got the gimmick on your sleeve, rocking your Hall of Fame shirt there too on there.
Yeah, I've gotten more compliments on this shirt, the Hall of Fame shirt, than anything in recent memory, and it's good work. So for the gentleman that designed this
JD
again,
Hoop. Yes.
yes, thank you very much.
JD absolutely crushed the design. And it's funny because Arn has texted me. He said, Paul, I love the shirt. I want a couple of them because while I'm cleaning one, I want to wear the other. And so we have definitely made sure that you have what you need there, Arn. But you can still grab the Arn Anderson Hall of Fame shirt and this brand new enforcer style shirt. Arn saw it and he was like, I like that. You know why? Nice and clean. It's not too busy.
Yeah, just simple message, something that guys wear. You know,
Yeah,
it's That's it. That's just personal preference, but we're kind of like a personal preference family around here, right?
we are. We are. Well, listen, I see a lot of folks that are here joining us already. The chat room is filling up live here on YouTube. As I said, Four Horsemen Network, One True Sport. Start throwing your questions in, and don't forget Super Chat, guys. You know that is the surefire way to make sure that we answer your questions. This show is going to be a little bit different, and with good reason. We're going to talk about some fun things here in the beginning, and then we're going to talk about Kevin Sullivan. And since Arn and I have not been together for the last few weeks, some vacations and some travel and shows and things like that. We're going to catch up on all this stuff. But the bulk of our time this evening will be to remember and talk about a gentleman that Arn and I both have some great affection for. Arn, I was able to work with him. I looked over 30 episodes. I was able to record a show with him from end of August through March. End of August 2023 through March of this year, and someone that you spent a great deal with, and it is Kevin Sullivan. So we will have some time talking about him, and I want you guys to use the super chat and throw in all the questions you had as we go out, but I wanted to address that right from the top. But we're also, some other things have gone on that we're going to address right at the top of the show. First, I want to start with some sports news, Arn, because college football season is right around the corner. I know you love your Georgia Bulldogs. They're ranked preseason #1. They got 16 starters coming back, including Carson Beck. And they
Mm.
got teams on their schedule like Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee. It's loaded. And I want to get your opinion on your boys from Georgia this year. How you feeling going into the college football season?
Well, it just validates what I've been saying. They should have been in that last four teams playoffs. You know, the fact that they lost one game, but in 2 years, and now your champions from last year, aren't they just a shoe in to get that first ranking #1 the next year? I mean, your national champion
Yeah, they should be.
normally.
Yeah.
So, well, they're not.
They're not.
Michigan, right?
Yep.
Georgia's ranked #1. You just got, now they just got to go out and play up to expectations. And I just love college football, love NFL football, just as you do. And when is the actual first game? Is it next week or
Uh, for college or well, NFL, I know
college?
is until the first week of September. College, I'm not sure. I'll rely on Andrew. He's in the chat. He'll tell me because I'm not. I follow college a little bit, but not to the degree that you boys do. So I'll wait to find out from him when the first game is. But you mentioned Carolina and NFL. Are you feeling a little better this year about the Panthers or no?
I just try to stay optimistic.
Okay.
I beat them up. When it's that fair weather thing that we all have, we try not to have it, but we do. It sure is nice to be sitting on the couch watching the Panthers play when they're winning. I mean, it's a whole different ball game. It's like watching the Braves. It's if they're 0 for everything, it's hard to get enthusiastic about it. Um, I don't put a lot of stock in preseason because none of the starters play, so you don't know what you got.
You're absolutely right. You never know what you got until the games actually start. It's fun to watch like the first drive or two. You get that fever back. But again, let's get through that without any injuries. And everybody's hopeful at this. Everybody has to be optimistic. If not, then like you said, what's the point? August 24th, college football kickoff. So 11 days.
Oh, beautiful. Well, and one thing I always try to do, athletes are marks, for lack of a better word, for other sports. All the things that I know physically I cannot do, I am a fan of those guys that can do it.
Yeah.
So it's better off just to keep my mouth shut, like, oh yeah, what NFL team were you on, So
Well, you know what? It's competition. We love competition. So it's
and
in our
we love
blood.
having a home team,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you got your Braves. They hold the second wild card spot. I know they're battling with injuries, but you never know.
Brother, a couple of 2 games ago, they lost. They had a major meltdown. Oh my God. They were winning 8-2 in the eighth inning and end up losing 9-8. You talk about a massive meltdown.
That's not normally the Atlanta Braves.
I've never seen anything collapse like that. It was just unbelievable.
Well, Arn, let's talk about something a little bit more fun and looking forward to. We mentioned August 24th, the start of college football season on that Saturday. That Sunday, after they're done watching college football, they ought to come out to Salisbury, North Carolina, and see the Enforcer and Brock Anderson. You got a big show for AML once again, Sunday, August 25th. And I know you love working for that company. Brock does as well, him and CW tag champs. So yeah, make sure if you're in the area, check it out, Arn, right?
Please do. Please do. They run a hell of a show. And I appreciate CW and the grooming process that he's helping Brock with. And, he's just getting better all the time. They're turning into be a really good team. And there's a lot of good competition. AML's a first class outfit.
They are for sure. So make sure if you're in the area, check it out. And those that are planning to go to WrestleCon, don't forget about that. Winston-Salem, Thanksgiving weekend. Arn's going to be there. Brock's going to be there. And I see so many names coming out as far as talent that's going to be at WrestleCon. I'm sorry, WrestleCade. I apologize. WrestleCade, big event, Thanksgiving weekend in Winston-Salem. So make sure you take advantage of that. Hawkeye, we're getting there. We're coming up to SummerSlam here in a minute. Two quick more plugs, Arn, and then we'll go. I know some folks are like, why do we plug so much stuff? Listen, this is our opportunity for Arn to connect with the fans and make sure they're aware of where he's going to be and what he's got going on. Got the comic book still going strong. Plenty of copies of that. And so make sure if you are out and about and want to see Arn, come grab a comic book, man. And I want to thank you here and now for the awesome personalization that you wrote for my book when I got to see it at the Hall of Fame. It means a lot to me. But I know every time when I was at the table, they were selling like hotcakes for you.
Well, you have earned every bit of praise that you're getting, my friend. I appreciate all that you've done to make this a success. We would not be on the air if it wasn't for you. So thank you. And I just wanted to make it easy, like the figures that we have from Zach Ryder's company. Finally got them where we can have them right there at the event. You can pick them up. You don't have to worry about where do I order from and all that. Same thing with the books. We'll have them right there. We can sign them, whatever you want, hand them off. I'm all about making it simple.
There you go. I wanted a quick mention. We didn't get to do this last show, and I promise this is the last announcement we'll have before we get to SummerSlam, guys, because I know you're biting at the bit to hear about his experience there. Ultra Pro Wrestling from Hyper Focus Games. Okay, it's coming. It's that gameplay inspired by the classic N64 wrestling games with modern features. I love the guys over there. Great guys working on it. Anthony and others. You have Hal Haney designing all the characters, and he's designed Arn Anderson. as well as so many other wrestlers, Magnum TA and others. 100 plus characters and free agents that you're going to be able to download. So check it out. If you're not following them on social media, you can at UPW Video Game. And they also have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Ultra Pro Wrestling. And you're going to get exclusive content and updates over there. And it's going to work on all your gaming systems, PS4, PS5, Xbox, the PC, and Switch. So look for more news on it and check it out, ultraprowrestling.com. And I love those guys over there. They're working with us at One True Sport, putting a lot of our talent are going to be in the video game. And so we can't wait to see what they have over there. Okay. Now let's get into it. WrestleCon weekend. I knew you and Brock were going to be in Cleveland, and you, my friend, did not say a word to me about what was about to happen on my television screen as I sat down and I'm watching SummerSlam, and they go back to Cody, who's coming off the bus. And as Cody comes off the bus, he stops and talks to you. Okay, so I have some questions about this. There you are, the dad figure, the coach figure. You're giving him that one last pep talk of reassurance before the big match. There will be friends that are there. Can you please tell us, how did this appearance come together? And just share with us, your family around your virtual living room, how this all came together. We were so excited to see you, man.
Well, coincidence-wise, I was going to be in Cleveland anyway, and I was doing a signing for the 2 days for WrestleCon, obviously. And Cody, I get, bless his heart, I will get a random text from him months after I haven't talked to him, and it'll be at 3:00 in the morning, and it's almost like it's in code. But it was like we were having a conversation, Triple H and myself, and, just wonder what we could do, maybe to have you come to one of the shows or something. And I think, according to his text, Triple H said, I think that maybe some of the guys, young guys we have here and young ladies haven't met him. So maybe it would be a nice treat, because there were a lot of other legends going to be there, Nash and Sarge, Miss Texas, the Steiner brothers. It wasn't like I was the only legend, quote, that was going to be there. And he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I'd always be interested in saying hello to you in some type of cameo." So he put me in touch with Benjamin Brown, says his name.
Yes, sir.
Nice man. He's the one that takes care of some of these lost treasures on that show and everything. And he got a hold of me, and they just, hey, yes, we'd love to have you. We'll fly you in. We can bring a guest. We'll put you up at the West End, and love to have you come over after you finish your obligations. Signing from, and thanks to the people of WrestleCon, from the fine folks that put that together. I'm much appreciative. They used us, Brock and I. So they said, we will have travel get a hold of you. And it was one of those things. I don't know what kind of press. I didn't see anything anywhere about me possibly coming. So I'm thinking, well, maybe they're going to make this a surprise. That's kind of cool. And from the reaction of the crowd, I think it was a surprise. I don't think anybody expected me to be there, even though there were some crossover fans that were, and it's funny. It's like I must have had 5 or 6 people when I was doing the 2-day signing. You going to do a run in on Cody's match? No chance. It could be a wobble in or a hobble in, or maybe I get a golf cart to run me down there or something, but there ain't gonna be no run ins out of this old boy. So it turned out that it was Pharaoh and having his final walk with Cody. Mm-hmm. What a sweet dog. I know what a beautiful dog it is. And it turned into something else entirely. So
So you get there, you pull in, and then does someone approach you and say, "Hey, we're going to have you do a segment with Cody in the back." Who is that? Cody who tells you that, or who?
When I first got there, in the back, if you're a VIP, you get to pull underneath in the car service that they provide for you. So I got out, and I mean, this is a pay per view. This SummerSlam. This is second biggest pay per view of the year for that company, and for any company for that matter. You got 7,000 people there, whatever it was. So I was so glad to see this, but it was really so nuts. I'm starting to see, as soon as I get out of the car and I start walking, like looking around, like, okay, who do I see? Like, who do I let know I'm here? And I see all these familiar faces, from 5 years ago when I worked there. But they're all here. They come, and God, I didn't know you were going to be here. So good to see you. Hugging my neck, shaking my hand, and it was just people that were so happy to be on their job that particular day. It was just what a warm feeling. The whole atmosphere everywhere I walked backstage. So I said, somebody get a hold of Cody and get him out here if you don't mind. And they said, okay, why don't you just go to his bus? He's the first one in line right there. So I knocked on the door, went in, we talked, had a nice talk, got to visit with him. Saw Randy Orton right away, got to visit with him. Saw The Undertaker pulling in, got to visit with him a little bit. It was, I just kind of floating along. I mean, it was a lot of familiar, and I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, but the entire camera crew from when I worked there for 19 years now, still there, still intact. Those guys, great guys. The travel girls, Holly and Kathy, still intact. All these different jobs that people do backstage that I know their face and I know they work in production, but I have no idea what their name is, and never did for the 19 years I was there. It was just, hey man, how you doing? Da, da, da. So it was just an overall really heartwarming, I guess is the best word for it. It was a heartwarming event for me personally, and I'm glad it was received the way it was by everybody, and just thankful for the opportunity to say hello to everybody.
I can't stop smiling listening to you talk about it because it sounds like a family reunion, Arn, and it also sounded like a completely different, probably a totally different vibe in a good way.
Totally different, totally different. And it just everybody you saw was just had a little pep in their step. They were skipping around and, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Da, da, da. We've never met. Da, da, da. But it was all in the course of doing their job. They were tickled to death, and they should have been. They were going to be appearing or participating in the second biggest show of the year. So why wouldn't you be?
Oh, so good. All right, so I want to talk about it because also what made the rounds was Triple H tweeted out a picture of you, him, and Brock. So I know it's obviously Brock was your guest. What
Yep.
was it like, first of all, for Brock to be there with you, to be a part of that experience? Because that had to be very cool for him, number one. And then number two, talk to us a little bit about your time with Triple H.
Well, Brock is a little subdued. He doesn't get over the top, too bent out of shape about anything. He's very respectful, very nice kid, very respectful of the business and the people in it, and the knowledge that he's acquired from just keeping up with social media and watching the shows and all the things that you have to do to learn the business. And if you're not at work every single day like we used to be, you learned it the job, on the job. But I'm very proud of him. That goes without saying. And he's very, very respectful where the business goes. And I was glad to see everybody get to see him in that light. And I mean, we were both just, and we looked at each other a couple of things and went a couple of times during the day and went, man, This is nice, isn't it? Yeah, it sure is, Dad.
I'm sure Triple H was busy because it's show day. It's a big day. He's running things from a creative perspective. You always see him in the back there talking with talent, but he always makes time to take the pictures with people. And he made sure he took time to take a picture with you and Brock. Was that just the time that you had spent there when you got the picture with him? Was that the time you got to interact with him?
Being there and knowing the responsibilities that I had on pay-per-view day, there's no downtime. So I waited to go up to Cody had already went to the ring and was in the final stages of his match before I ever even went up there. So I didn't want to be a distraction, and that's what it would have been. So I just kind of stayed in catering, stayed out of everybody's way. And then when the match was over, I walked up, obviously hugged Cody's neck. Hunter came around, hugged his neck. I didn't take any time away from the job because I can only imagine how dialed in he's got to be. He's sitting at the helm of a 3.5, 4 hour show that's just God knows the content that he's responsible for. But that picture was pretty cool, and it's on a personal note. He and I always had a really good relationship, and it was very rewarding to have that picture for me personally with Brock and Hunter and myself. It's a personal thing with me. It's not a publicity. Sure. It's a personal thing, and it goes all the way back. He was one of the kids that when he very first came to WCW, Rick and I threw him in the back of the Cadillac and said, "You're going with us." And because you knew just right away, just talking to him for 10 minutes, he had his head on right. He had all the right goals. Everything was in line. So,
was that the first time that Brock's met Triple H?
No, but he was younger, obviously.
Okay.
I've gone 5 years, right? So It was at least 5 years since he had seen him. But
you hear on TV, whether it was this year at the Hall of Fame or at WrestleMania, how much they said it's the Triple H era. And you've seen people come out and just say what a difference it feels like. And that it feels like it's just a totally new company backstage. But now here you are again, you said it, you worked with them for 19 long years. And for you to come back and you're saying that feeling, you felt that feeling while you were there, just of newness and joy and a refreshed atmosphere.
The pressure when I was there, I mean, it's if you don't work there, you can't explain it to somebody where they would understand it. But yeah, I mean, everything was loose. Everybody was in a positive mood. It was a whole different feeling, whole different vibe, period. And which means it's being done right and done right by the right people.
That's great to hear. It's great for the boys and girls that work there. You know what I mean? That's a huge win for them.
It's great for the business in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess there was no further conversations of, hey, come on back, or we'd love to have you here, or just it was like hey, it was a great one-off type opportunity. Is that where we're at kind of with it? Because
it's all it needed to be that day. There was no reason to sit down and start going, okay, you're interested in doing anything else? Would you like to do anything? It was left on just they had a box for us with catering for just the legends up in the stadium. Who does that? So it was the end to a perfect day. I mean, if you want to be treated, like a Hall of Famer, they damn sure did it. They treated us all like Hall of Famers.
It's the respect level too. And you always know Triple H, you can tell the respect he had for Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA in the early days. That was what he loved to watch, JCP.
Well, and he's a wrestler's wrestler. He's a performer. He's not a gimmick. Which gimmicks are fine. You got to have some of them on the show too, but he's not, he's a performance artist. He's a storyteller. He's a fighter. He's all those things, that those of us that can't do the acrobatics or have an unusual look or unusually big or unusually ugly or unusually handsome who find a niche in the business. He was a performance artist, I guess is what you could say. But, he went out and he made you believe that he was in a fight with his opponent. And, he's kind of old school. If you really want to think about it, say it, he's old school.
Hmm. So good. I'm going to mention it now. And again, continue to throw in your questions, but we have Brian Heffron, AKA the Blue Meanie, who's watching this live right now, Arn. And he chimed in and said, Brock is such a great guy, respectful guy. Arn did such a great job raising him. So there you go. By the
Thank you,
way,
Meanie. Thank you very much.
So,
well, it's the most important thing in this business, because we can't do it without each other. You can't go out and get over on your own if you're the only person in the ring. It takes two to tango. And, the main thing you have to have is respect for your dance partner or your opponent, whatever you want to call them. It is the most important thing. And you have to send that person, it's a tough business and you're going to get beat up, you're going to get hurt and all those things, but you got to send your opponent back to his family the way you found them, in one piece and not crippled. And that respect that we have for each other is what makes all things possible.
Well, Arn, thank you for sharing all that. Really, really great stuff. Really appreciate it. Brock, having personally hung out with him, I got to spend a lot of time with him at the Hall of Fame weekend. Meanie is absolutely right. He is a tremendous young man. What he said about you prior to your induction to the Hall of Fame was very moving, and you did a real good job with your boy. He's the first, and I couldn't wait to text him when I saw the picture of the three of you with Triple H. It was so cool. Very happy for him, and just can't wait to see all his success. With that said, a lot of happy times. As I mentioned at the top of the show, there also some news that has come across actually last week. That a dear friend of yours over the years and someone that became a close friend of mine over the last year, passed away. And guys, I have so many notes in front of me. Thank you, Andrew, on the career of Kevin Sullivan. And we can sit here and take time and talk about his career in Florida. We can talk about his time and career in Crockett as the games master when he first came over in the 87 and the varsity club and the group and he and Nancy and their relationship, even when he was in Florida as the devil and everything that he did. And then you think about the Dungeon of Doom and his time as Booker and WCW. And there's so much about his career that we can go through the notes. But I think, Arn, what I want to do is, first of all, I want to have you share some just overall thoughts about Kevin and your time and maybe any kind of personal traveling stories, or maybe we'll start with how you first met, your first remembrance of meeting Kevin Sullivan. We'll start there. And as you're thinking about that, I want to open it up to the members and everybody watching that's viewing. We have quite a bit large audience. And for those that are watching on YouTube, you can send in chats. Don't forget the super chat. Obviously, I see Liam, you have a super chat. We're going to come to you here in a minute. But throw those questions in because this is your opportunity to talk to Arn and ask him his opinion and your thoughts on Kevin Sullivan. And then I'm also going to share about the over 30 episodes that I got to work with Kevin on Tuesday with the Taskmaster and what I got to learn about the man behind the scenes. So, Arn, let's start there. Let's talk about your first interaction. As we're calling this episode Remembering Shorty. And that was your affectionate name for Kevin. So just share some thoughts that you have with
Well,
his
I could see him across a ballroom at a signing. And if he came into my line of sight, he could be 40 yards away. Shorty! And with no pause and no hesitation. What is it, Fatso? Those were our pet names for each other.
Love it.
And it was immediate. It wasn't like he usually when somebody screams at you, you look around and go, what did they say? It was crystal clear. We've been friends since probably the first time we met. And I think it was when he was bouncing around and
In
in
the
the
mid 80s.
Georgia days in the early 80s, I
Yeah.
think we're on a show, believe it or not, in Athens, Georgia, which was not a hotbed for wrestling like it is football, but they ran a show there, and we were leaving, going out to the car after the show was over, and he just introduced Nancy. It was my first meeting Nancy, and she was
Mhm.
just Nancy then. She was not woman. So I met her as, I think they were just, I don't even know that they were married yet. Probably not. But nice lady. Kevin was really a nice guy, in just a locker room setting. We didn't talk about a whole lot of stuff, but I think even then he was talking about sports. And the guy, it was Forrest Gump of the sporting worlds, guys. If you don't believe it, ask him anything
Mm.
about anybody in any era. And if he didn't have the immediate answer, he would have circumstances surrounding it where he knew what you were talking about. Guy's brilliant.
He not only that, but the time just getting to talk to him, he was such a history buff. I used to always joke and say, Kevin, I don't, he would say, Paul, do you remember blah, blah, blah? And it would be a historical event. And I just really felt uneducated and dumb when I would have a conversation with Kevin. So I started using this hashtag educate us. And I would ask him a question, and he would, and his mind as a 73, 74-year-old man still remembered so much detail about history and geography and different questions. And I was just so fortunate to get to know that part of him and sports. Don't get me wrong. He knew everything, a walking almanac, an encyclopedia for sports, but history, he loved history.
Yeah, don't feel bad. He made me feel stupid all the time too. And not just talking about wrestling, which we did talk about a lot, because I was wanting to learn. When I was a young guy in the business, any veteran that would take the time to talk to me, I would, I always wanted to know the whys or the why nots. And that wasn't something that you talked about. Everybody didn't talk about that, but I always figured out pretty early, you know, I know we're going to, this guy does this thing after this happens, or this guy over here does something after that happens, but why is he doing it? What, what is the reason behind it? And he could tell you. If you ask him, he would tell you.
He had as we were talking before the show started about his start in the business. And if you do your research on Kevin, it says he had no formal training. His first match was in Montreal, and then he came down Florida. Then he would start working with the WWF in Florida. He was tag champs with Eddie Graham, and he had an influence
Mike
there.
Graham, right?
Mike Graham. And then you can tell I'm just freestyling here now, but then he went to
Well,
the WWF. Then he was over in San Francisco, and a lot of just reading through his history, his biography, if you will, on what's out there. He was such a student of the game, Arn. What he maybe didn't have in training, and like you said, back in those days, there wasn't training schools, obviously like we had today. You had to pick it up as you went.
it was called a guy breaking you in. If a guy broke you in, that meant that he had access to a ring, whether it was in a particular territory or something. And if he saw something in a guy that he was going to let him in our business, or at least give him a chance to earn his way into our business. You would get a guy in there. In the old days, the old timers would stretch you, they'd beat you up, kick your ribs in. They did it. How bad do you want this kid? And that was your formal training. It wasn't like you went for months and sometimes years to a school every day and had access to these beautiful facilities. You had a guy meet you down there in the afternoon. And the Andersons were famous for bringing guys down and giving them a tryout, but really it wasn't a tryout. It was just a gut check. And I'm sure Kevin went through some of that stuff. Plus, he was bodybuilding at the time. tremendous physique. I mean, a lot of guys don't realize, he was really. I mean, his legs
Power.
strong,
Yeah.
strong squatter, strong hack, front squatter, thigh extension. I mean, the guy was jacked.
Yeah. There was a promo, I don't know if it was Instagram or Twitter, but it was of him. I guess he was calling out Tony Atlas, and he had just won some kind of bodybuilding award, maybe in Georgia. But he looked incredible.
Yeah.
He was leaned out. He had just won some kind of an award. His background is unbelievable. But the one thing that I want to pull out too was you talk about, and I'm going to relay this a little bit to Brock. One of the things that you like about Brock right now is that he's out on the independent, getting a lot of experience and exposure. As you look back at Sullivan, the diverse amount of territories that he worked, whether San Francisco, Florida, WWF, Georgia, Crockett, wherever, you got to know that he was able to take lessons from everywhere he worked. Booking styles, all that diversity had to help him in creating and crafting his own, not only his own wrestling style, but eventually how he would approach booking responsibilities too.
Well, in those days, you were bouncing around, to different territories, and there was like myself, when Bob Armstrong brought me down for that first time, it was for 3 weeks. It wasn't. They didn't guarantee you any length of time. There were no contracts, none of that. You might be in a territory for 1 month. They may send you to the next territory with the caveat that all of got is underneath position, but you're welcome to it. We'll see how it works out, and you may stay there a year.
Hmm.
And you're wrestling every single day. That's why guys got better quicker. This is that's not available these days. Other than probably NXT and WWE. That's the only place that gets the reps that you have to have on a daily basis to see a change in 3 months with a guy. He's had to bend that ring 4 or 5 times a week, in my opinion.
Yeah. I want to talk about a little bit about his Prince of Darkness character, because Arn, when he did it in the 80s, think about it. It was a time when, Satanism, not that it's in vogue now, but think about the 1980s. There's rising concerns about devil worship. Kevin Sullivan didn't care. He went for the shock value. I see guys in the chat left and right. He scared me when I was a kid. His eyes rolling back in his head. It was that Undertaker feel. Everything that he did. Do you remember your first reaction, or when you were first exposed to the whole Prince of Darkness, and what you thought about that, his gimmick back in those days?
Well, yeah, if it don't scare you, I mean, isn't that what we're taught from day one? There's good, there's evil, there's good versus evil, and you probably don't want to be on the wrong team when this all comes crashing down. I'm not sure you want to be on the devil worshiping side of life, but I mean, he had that look with the running,
mascara, the eye makeup stuff. Oh yeah,
he looked like some disheveled something that if you walked down in an alley in San Francisco somewhere, you might get robbed by this guy with a broken bottle.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a bit significant gamble. He and Eddie Graham take this gamble. To play this character, he goes all in on it. Like you mentioned, Nancy goes in all it too, his sidekick, and it's something that none of us will forget. I wish WWE Network would add some Florida content to Peacock, because there's a lot I didn't get to see. That territory wasn't available to me here in the Northeast, and I'm sure, I don't know if many of you
I'd love to see it too.
I would love to go back and watch that stuff.
And I'm sure they pushed the envelope, but it was because it was a privately owned company, remember?
Yeah.
They weren't having to adhere to the public's don't do that or do this or whatever it was. Mike Graham's father, Eddie Graham, was a brilliant man and a genius, and he owned the company.
Arn, before we get into some of his NWA WCW days, Liam Evans, one of our One True Sport members, our traveling champion, he says, "Hey Arn, super chat, thank you very much." I'm gonna throw it on the screen actually. He says, "Hey Arn, do you think there's been anyone in the wrestling business with creative similarities to Kevin, or was Kevin just a unique one of a kind?"
I think he was one of a kind. Now he could sit down and have while he's putting his makeup on is when he was becoming the Prince of Darkness. He could be sitting in the locker room with you and he could be having a conversation. He knew, Bill Buckner, the ball that went through his legs and what were the ramifications of the end of the season for both of those teams and what inning was it. And, you could ask him who won the Kentucky Derby back in 1981. He could think about it for a second. He had an answer, and he was usually right. That kind of intelligence, I think, is very rare. If you think about it, someone that is that smart and has that power over information and all that stuff, and he was educated, and it wasn't that he just spouted a bunch of stuff. It was all correct. Why isn't this guy running the country? He could be the president, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
That's a frightening thought.
As long as he kept the paint off his forehead. Hey, who knows nowadays? Anybody can run for president. But he is a genius, a super genius. Bryant Haremza has a question. And by the way, Arn, today is Bryant Haremza's birthday. He wanted to thank you for the birthday wish. You recorded not too long ago for him, but today we dropped it today, and today is his birthday, Bryant.
Happy birthday.
That's right. He says, Kevin, when Kevin and Paul had their show, I always enjoyed finding clips and sending them to Paul to play for Kevin. You did. Wrestling Rabbit Hole, I think that was the title. The guy's Twitter would play some great clips, some classics. He said, I have to ask, Kevin is always known for his booking, but do you think people overlook how good he was in the ring, Arn?
Now, I'm not going to say that he was a world-class worker because he wasn't. He chose not to take very many bumps, and that was a heated issue with all of us occasionally. Shorty would spin around. He would not go off his feet. Are you going to go down at all? And he came up to about right here on me, and I would be hitting him with everything but the kitchen sink. And he would just be spinning around and coming off the ropes. I mean, he was smarter than the rest of us, obviously, because I don't remember him being injured very much. But, it's like he was the whole package. He would go down just enough to keep it interesting. He was more of a brawler than a wrestler, truth be known. I mean, I've been in many fights with him, but I would never say I was in a 4-star match with him.
You talk about him, but he and I just saw it in the chat, Andrew Williams, he understood heat, as did JJ Dillon and Bill Watts. Very well said. As a kid, I remember him in the varsity club and the games master, and you had Rotundo and Rick Steiner and Dr. Death all in there, their alma maters, Jackets, Syracuse, Michigan, Oklahoma. And he was the one, kind of pushing it all, leading the group. And I also remember his beef with Jimmy Jam Garvin and Precious. He wanted Precious, and they had a good thing going, him and Jimmy Jam Garvin at the time. But just some fond memories of him. The Tower of Doom matches, the 3 cages on top of each other. Just such fun memories of Kevin. Do you have any memories back in the day of the varsity club and when he worked with that group, Rotunda and Dr. Death and that group?
He had 3 of the most legitimate athletes in the business in his group, but he was still able to be intelligent. I mean, these are all college educated guys, college athletes, world-class amateur athletes, world-class professional athletes. But he had that thing about him that he was like, how was this guy able to control these guys? How was he able to control their mind? And that little, he wasn't over the top when he was with the varsity club. He was just kind of the spokesman for the group. But he knew how to tone it down or amp it up depending on who he was in angle with and what was called for.
I got to talk about another pairing with Kevin Sullivan. Do you know that he was the great Oz for when with Kevin Nash. So you had remember the Oz gimmick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the guy behind the curtain. He was the grand. I'm sorry, he was the Grand Wizard. Nash was Oz, but Kevin Sullivan played the Grand Wizard.
Did we ever see him on camera?
I don't think so. No. Okay. They made sure that they hid him. If he was probably all done up and whatnot. But I don't know that that was one of his shining moments.
Probably not. But
Yeah.
so maybe he just did the voice behind the curtain, much like the oldie was the Black Scorpion, but you never knew that.
Yeah. It was definitely a unique choice for sure.
It wasn't necessarily oldie's shining hour being the Black Scorpion either. So
Yeah. Oh man. All
take the
right.
good with the bad.
Yeah. Well, and then you have him returning to WCW, okay, where he becomes the booker, creates the Dungeon of Doom for Hulk Hogan, and he also plays a major role in the NWO storyline and the whole Brian Pillman angle. So, what did you think about Sullivan's idea to kind of consolidate Hogan's allies into that one group, the Dungeon of Doom? Do you like that? Was that a savvy move on his part to kind of build this group? This
Well, it gave him a bunch of tackling dummies.
Yeah.
And big impressive guys, that he could that's what you had to have when you have a babyface champion who's a superhero. You got to feed him some bad guys and you got to keep them coming, and they got to be legitimate threats or it's not going to work. And Kevin understood that. He understood there was only one Hulk Hogan, there was only one Sting, there was only one Ric Flair. You had these core of guys that were just a little bit, a step above the rest of us. And he could spot that, and he knew how to keep them good.
I think as you were talking about that, I was also thinking about his feud that he had with Benoit. So I actually got to be in the crowd 1996 Great American Bash Baltimore when those two feuded up the aisleway into the bathroom and just had an unbelievable match between those guys. But that was intense, really due to some real life issues between them. But Sullivan was just willing to put aside personal differences. He had that Booker mindset. He was a true professional. And despite any personal issues at the time, obviously Nancy and all that going on, they worked through it, and it really benefited that storyline. And that was ultimately, the feud that I think he basically said, "Hey, I'm moving out of the wrestling side of things, and I'm gonna turn into becoming a booker after that feud." But what did you think as far as Sullivan's approach there, especially kind of really they used that kind of real life animosity to build a real good feud with him and Benoit?
As a performer, those were his shining moments, his angle with Pillman.
Yeah.
And his angle with Benoit, because none of us, and I wish if there is one that knew exactly what was going on. Were we getting worked? Were the boys getting worked? Was a shoot? What was going on behind the scenes? What was the deal? I, to this day, do not know what was legit and what was what. And I'm not sure anybody else did either. It was like the thing where Pillman came to the ring, grabbed the mic. We're in Florida. Yeah. And hey, this was a legitimate deal. I was off that night. I was not wrestling. I was not scheduled to wrestle. And when Shorty, I'm just do a blank here for just a second. Not Benoit, but Jesus.
Sullivan when Kevin
when he was working with the other guy, for God's sake, says dementia.
Oh, Pillman.
No, Pillman.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens when you get dropped on your head, guys.
It's all good. No worries.
I do have black spots where I just lose whatever the subject matter is. But when he came to the ring and he just grabbed the mic and said, "I respect you, Booker, man," but he just think they got in a short scuffle and he just left. He went out the back door and left the building. And I'm sitting back there on the monitor, and the referee comes running back and he says, Arn, you got to go out here. Well, we don't know where Pillman went. This is totally unscheduled. I think somebody said he got in the car and left. You got to come out here. You got to have something to go into this 10, 12-minute segment. So I've got on walking shorts, walking boots. I am not dressed to have a match. But if you go back and look at the footage, somebody had to do something, and I was part of the committee that was helping Kevin, book. So I just went down and we got in a hell of a fight and fought for 7 or 8 minutes or whatever it was around the arena and filled that time. And to this day, I do not know what that was about.
That is a moment in time for all of us wrestling fans that everybody recalls. The whole Booker Man deal. So another big time. Darren Staley has a fun question. I'm going to post this super chat coming in, and I don't know how you answer this, but he asks, and if I can click the button here, I'll be doing good. Better Booker, Arn, Booker of talent, Kevin, Dusty, or someone else?
Well, they were completely different. Kevin and Dusty knew how to book baby faces and top baby faces and himself, but he was also smart enough to keep the heat on the heels. If you go back and look at all those TVs from the Crockett days when we were kicking ass and the company was on fire, the TV time was devoted to us, the Midnight Express, and whatever heels they were pushing at the time to go out and get our heat. So when we got to the arena that night, Dusty and Magnum and the Rock and Roll and all the good guys, now it's time to get theirs, but you had to pay to see it. You didn't have a bunch, how many times did you see Dusty wrestling on TV or, even some of your top baby faces, you didn't see them. The time went to the heels, and Dusty understood that, and he always had guys with heat. So any one of us or the Midnight Express with him, with another partner, whoever it might be, Dusty understood you got to have heat, because once you're satisfied, once you get your ass kicked enough that the audience is satisfied, they quit buying tickets.
A few things as we start to wind down this episode. Andrew Williams, first of all, he asked a great question. Any chance Kevin makes the WWE Hall of Fame? He's certainly well deserved, and he should, in my opinion. Absolutely. Andrew says it would be criminal if he didn't. Did you travel at all with Shorty? Did you get to do any traveling? Any personal stories come to mind outside of him calling you fatso that you can recall?
Well, when I was helping him at the office, after Rick left and the whole thing, and Rick quit, he was booking, he quit, and he left Kevin kind of with Jimmy Hart. And I had been in there kind of learning, I was like a detail guy or a finish guy. And so when Rick left, quit, whatever the deal was, took time off, whatever, it just kind of left us. So after we would do TV on Monday and Tuesday, then I would come into the office and help Kevin. Well, we would try to get out of there at a decent time. We would run to Gold's Gym by the airport. We'd catch about an hour workout. Then we would go to the Marriott. We'd have a few beers and try to unwind as best we could and sort through what was going on, because we had to come out the next day. We had to have some TVs put together for the next week. And so, or the next day even. So I spent a lot of time with Kevin where we were just jamming a lot of work or working out or trying to grab a meal all into a short time frame. And, but we spent enough time together that we became good friends.
We have a question that just popped in from Instagram, a wrestling historian. And I think you were just talking a little bit about that, working with him as a booker in WCW. How was that? Just overall a fun experience for you?
Well, he would put down the bullet points that he thought for the segments. Say there's 12 segments in a show. He would he would put down the bullet points, and then we would all look at it. We'd hold it out in front of us. We all had a copy, and we'd, what do you think about this? Maybe I would have, oh, well, let's take this match and let's open the show with it instead of having it on last. And here's why. Or maybe we put it halfway through the show, and here, details, stuff like that. Jimmy Hart would pitch in something, his ideas. So it was, Kevin was a smart guy, and he knew how to format shows and, you know, different things build to a match 2 or 3 weeks later, which was very important. You just can't go out and give them a dream match every segment of every show every day. Going to run out of matchups. And he knew that. You had to build to a big match. And that could be anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 weeks.
As we start to wrap up, I want to just share a few things. One of the things that Kevin was so important to Kevin as we recorded a show called Tuesdays with the Taskmaster. And on that show, we got to answer questions from folks every single Tuesday. And he would have, as you said, a lot of knowledge about, whether it was sports. People would ask him baseball questions. People would ask him history questions, wrestling questions. And he was smart as a whip, and just also a lot of entertainment within that as well. He had a love for guys in current wrestling, and he liked to watch current wrestling. And we talk about pay-per-views and who he liked. He loved Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Always talked about Karrion Kross and how that he and Scarlett are stars and just so much potential. He also huge fan Braun Breaker. Steiner's son, as he would say, huge fan of Breaker. And then there was no question about it, Sami Zayn. It got to a point where I would crack jokes with him so much about his all-time favorite, and he'd start laughing because he knew where I was going. He was a huge Sami Zayn fan with the Bloodline storyline. And as I just talk about I just get feel myself getting a little choked up because he was it was like talking to my grandfather or you know what I mean? Or my dad just out on the porch. He was such a kind man. But one of the things that was so important for him to always close the show with was his wife, Linda L.A. Taylor, that she goes by. She published a book, Old School Ring Squared. It is available on Amazon. And I wanted to make sure, Arn, that here at the end of the show that we put that book over for him and his family. It's a fictionalized account of the beginning of wrestling. He said it would always remind him of kind of like the mob style side of wrestling. But Linda wrote the book. He was very proud of it and wanted to make sure that everybody checked it out. So if you're listening to me right now, watching this, I ask you to go to Amazon, check it out, Old School Ring Squared. And I'm sure it would mean a lot to her. I can't imagine what her and his daughters are going through. I know he had a daughter that was an executive for Dunkin' Donuts. He was talking about going back and visiting her. And, he was such a family man. When I made a decision to move off of ad-free shows and move into another phase of life, he was just so complimentary of my time working with him and being with family and how important family was. And I'll never forget that. Arn, you are the same exact way as you both, as you sit back and look at your life in the business and how much time that you both spent on the road. Kevin was also that same message of you got to be there and take your time for your family. And he always just said how important that was. And I guess that's kind of my message to all of you guys and gals that are listening and watching this right now. Don't wait till the end of your life to take advantage of those moments that you have with your family, because you never know how long that you have on this earth. And now, unfortunately, I never got to hug Kevin's neck in real life, and I never got to take the picture with him outside of a virtual screen like this. And when I heard that he passed, I had a rough time sleeping. And it's been a little bit rough because as I lay my head down the pillow, I think about all the fun that we got to have together just talking, because it was so recent. But some of you have sent pictures and I've seen a lot online, and I just want to say on behalf of me, and then Arn, you can close this out with some thoughts, that I look at it now that I'm just so blessed and thankful that I got to spend time with Kevin Sullivan and getting to know him more than just the guy that I watched on my television for so many years. That was either the devil or, a taskmaster or whatever the case may be. But he was just a really great man that cared about his family, loved his family. He always had time for the fans, and he enjoyed life. He enjoyed baseball and so many different things in history. And as people are pointing out, he was on other podcasts too. John Paz's show. He helped out numerous podcasts. Just a fantastic man. So, just my final thoughts. I just wanted to say he will be missed by many, loved by many, and I'm so thankful for the time that I got to spend with him and getting to know him. And Arn, as we wrap up the show, just any closing thoughts that you have for us tonight.
I can't top that, Paul. What you just said. You were very fortunate to be one of the few people that actually got to see, not Taskmaster, but you got to see Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah.
And in his most vulnerable, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Conversations and feelings and expressions and all that. Just remember something, folks, if you are a wrestling fan and you have these legends that still make appearances and do these things, just remember we live our life in dog years. It's not, we don't have a life expectancy like a lot of people that, live to be 80, 85. And, they were in pretty good health, the entire time. It doesn't happen very often in our business. And the main thing is those people that you have access to, tell them you love them. Tell them how much, they have done for you to enhance your life in the entertainment industry, and how much I hear one of the things when I'm at, these signings and stuff, thank you for being such a big part of my childhood. And it's that exact quote, and it's time after time. And there's a lot of those folks, and they really mean it, so Kevin is going to be a guy that I was fortunate enough to see him in his best and at his worst. And the fact was, he was still a friend of mine to the very end. And I just respect him for the man that he was and is. We will all grieve with his family and his fans, and just understanding one thing, Kevin is one of those unique guys. There won't be another one. Learn all you can about him. If it's get his book, if it's go back and pull up some old tapes and just watch him and study him and, enjoy him that way.
Yeah, that's true. Celebrate him and his life. What his impact on the business for sure. Amy Vaughn says, thank you for being you, Arn. Darren Staley, Mr. Comedy Guy, trying to make us smile. True story. To end on a happy note, Arn Anderson is actually 127 years old right now.
At least.
Is that true?
At least.
Many are flooding in. Great tribute. Rest in peace to Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster. Beautiful words, Paul and Arn. Love you both. We love you guys. We love doing the show. We're going to be back in 2 weeks, guys. August the 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern. Ask Arn anything. Bring all your questions. Bring it all. We're going to have a great time. But I want to thank all of you for being a part of this tonight, and this tribute for Kevin Sullivan, the Prince of Darkness, the Games Master, the Taskmaster, however you know him, a wonderful man. And we thank you all for being here on behalf of the founder of the Four Horsemen, Arn Anderson. This is Paul Bromwell, and we'll see you in 2 weeks right back here on the Four Horsemen Network and One True Sport. Take care, Arn. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.